All right, welcome back. Hopefully you got those problems down okay. If not, we're going to go over it on Friday and you're going to be all right. We still have a review day next Monday, and we're going to quiz on all this stuff on Tuesday. So let's get started with our lesson. Excuse me. All right, so we're doing lesson 4.2, all of 4.2. It's quite a bit. You have a handout in front of you, and I want you to take notes on the handout, and that's going to be worth 5 points. I will check that on Friday to see if you did it. So standard form is the form f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, we've seen this before. This shouldn't be anything new. And let's note a couple of things real quick. A is the coefficient, the number in front of x squared. B is the number in front of x, and C is our constant term, okay? So we're going to need all of those later on. So A is going to work the same way it does for vertex form. If A is greater than 0, then our parabola will open up, and if A is less than 0, our parabola will be sad and open down. Now, with vertex form, we were able to go right into finding the vertex because it's visible. You see H, you see K, so the vertex is HK. In this case, there's no H and there's no K here. So we're going to have to do things a little bit differently for standard form. You don't want to find the vertex first. You want to find the axis of symmetry first, the AOS. And the AOS is found, let me write AOS over here, AOS. Is found by doing this formula. You're going to take the opposite of B, so negative, my alarm clock, over 2A. That is going to be so key. That's going to be the most important formula that we have for standard form, okay? That gives us the axis of symmetry. Now, in order to find the vertex of our parabola, we're going to take that x equals negative b over 2a. That's going to be our h value in the vertex. Remember that when we did the vertex form, we found h first, and then we did the axis of symmetry is x equals h. Now we're finding the axis of symmetry is negative b over 2a, so we're going to put that in the x coordinate for our vertex. And then to find the y value, well, you simply plug it in. You're going to do f of negative b over 2a. And I know that looks a little tricky, but all that means is you take what you got for x, you plug it into your function, and you'll get the y value, okay? So that's also very important information. And finally, the last thing is going to be the y-intercept of our graph. That's going to help us to graph these. And the y-intercept is when you let x equal 0. And if you were to plug 0 up here into your function f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c, you plug in 0 and you get 0, because 0 squared times a is 0, plus b times 0, which is also 0, plus c. And so you get 0 plus c, which equals c. And that's our y-intercept is going to be that constant that you see on the end there. Okay? All right, so now you have all the tools that you need. And so let's go ahead and start a problem. So number 1, given the function y equals x squared plus 2x plus 3, we're going to find all of these things. The first thing we're going to find is the axis of symmetry. So let's start by doing our formula. X equals negative b over 2 times a. A is the coefficient in front of x squared, and there's no number there. It's automatically a 1. So we get negative 2 over positive 2. So our axis of symmetry will be x equals negative 1. So then the vertex will have that same value in its x spot. And to find the y, we want to just plug in negative 1. So negative 1 goes into our function, our original function up top. Negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 plus 3. If you're going to use your calculator, which is fine, you'll want to put parentheses around -1 when you square it. And you get 1 minus 2 plus 3, which is 2. Okay, and then the y-intercept is to let x equal 0. When I plug 0 in, I get 0 plus 0 plus 3, which is 3. And now I'm ready to graph. So first I'm going to graph my axis of symmetry, x equals -1. Then I'm going to plot my point, and I'm going to go over -1 up 2. There's my dot right there. There it is. And then I'm going to plot the y-intercept. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, plot my y-intercept, which also means, because the axis of symmetry, I'll have another point on the other side. Draw a nice smooth curve, not a V shape, it's a U. And there's our parabola. Okay, now this graph has a minimum. The minimum is the y value that it goes to the lowest y value. And as you can see here, that would be this right here, which is at 2. Now that just so happens to be the same number in the vertex. It's not a coincidence. It's always going to be that way. The domain is going to be all real numbers every single time. And then the range will be, the range is going to be starting at whatever y value I have as my minimum and going up from there. So y will be greater than or equal to 2. Those are all the things. All right, we're going to do another one. Number 2. This one's going to be, a is -2 here, so it's going to be pointing down, so I know that for sure. So let's go ahead and find the axis of symmetry. We're going to do -b, which is -4, over 2 times a. So -4 over -4 equals +1. Now it just so happens that all of my examples either have x as 1 or positive or -1 as your axis of symmetry. It doesn't always have to be 1 or -1. I just kind of picked some random problems and they all worked out that way. All right, so our vertex is going to be, our x value is 1. Let's take 1 and plug it in. So we have -2 times 1 squared plus 4 times 1 plus 1. So that will give us, what is that? 5 minus 2, 3. Okay. Pretty sure that's right. Let's double check. -2 plus 4 is 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay, good. And then the y-intercept, of course, plug 0 in, and it's going to be that constant on the end, which is 1. So let's plot our stuff now. We have our axis of symmetry, x equals 1. It's a vertical line. Then we have the vertex at 1, 3. And as you notice, the axis of symmetry will always land on the same point, or the point of the vertex and axis of symmetry will always touch. Then we have the y-intercept of 0, 1. And we have the same one across the axis of symmetry. And I was expecting my graph to point down, and I'm correct. So probably right. Okay, when your graph points down, you will have a maximum then. The maximum is the highest point of y that our graph reached. And in this case, it's 1, 2, 3. 3, and that is not a coincidence again. It's the same as the vertex y value. The domain is, say it. No, go ahead, say it out loud. What is it? Good. All real numbers. Yes. All right, and then the range is going to be y, and it's all the numbers below 3. Y is less than or equal to 3. It also equals 3 because that's where the vertex is. Okay, I'm going to let you try number 3. So go ahead, pause the video, push pause, and try this problem. And once you're done, push play again and come back. All right, I'll be waiting. And push pause. Go ahead. All right, welcome back. So, how'd you do? Let's find out. Axis of symmetry, you did x equals -b, so that's a positive 12, negative b, over 2 times a. So I get 12 over 12, which is x equals 1. See, I did it again. I didn't mean to, but I did. All right, the vertex is then going to be to plug 1 in. And you might have been alarmed here because you thought, oh, she didn't give us a good enough graph. And you're right, she didn't. And she is me. All right, so we get 6 times 1 squared minus 12 times 1 minus 4. So 6 minus 12 is negative 6, minus 4 is negative 10. And then the y-intercept is at 0, negative 4. So let's plot everything. So I have x equals 1 is my axis of symmetry. 1, negative 10. I'm just going to pretend like that's negative 10 down there. And then I'm also going to plot 0, negative 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to cross over the axis of symmetry to get another point. And then you're going to draw your nice smooth curve. It's a real stretched out. Okay, the minimum is going to be the smallest y value that you see here. The minimum happens to be down here where we graph this at negative 10 on the y-axis, like the y up and down. And that, of course, is the same as the y value of the vertex. The domain is, maybe that's the only thing you got right, but you got it right. But it's all real numbers, or maybe you're doing great. Let's go with a positive attitude. And then finally, the range would be that y is going to be greater than or equal to negative 10. It's all the stuff above negative 10, nothing down here below negative 10. Okay, so that's pretty much, how to do it in standard form. It's a lot different than vertex form. You're still finding the same information. So let's look at number 4 now. Graph the parabola, the vertex is given, and the y-intercept is given. So plot those 2 points. Go to negative 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, positive 2, and there's your vertex. Then go to the y-intercept of 3, and then we know that there is an axis of symmetry here, and so yeah, once again I gave you a really bad graph, but it's over there. So we can draw our parabola. It's a really wide one. And that's all they wanted to do, is just graph the parabola. We did it. All right, back page. Go ahead and flip. Do you need a break? Sorry, don't take any breaks. Here we go. We have 2 forms that we've been studying. So let's review them, okay, before we move on. We know that we have vertex form, so let's write vertex form. Y equals A times x minus h squared plus k. Okay, and it's called vertex form because we can actually see what the vertex is. The vertex is hk. And then standard form is the new form for today, and that was y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, and the formula that goes with that one is the axis of symmetry is x equals negative b over 2a. Now let's note one thing here. These forms are very different, but they also have something that's the same, exactly the same. So if I have something in vertex form and I have a number out front and then I rewrite it in standard form, that a is going to be exactly the same. So if this a was 2 in vertex form, and I do the same parabola but write it in standard form, it's going to be 2 again. So the a doesn't change, everything else pretty much does. So let's start here. We're going to rewrite the vertex form of these 3 next problems. So A, B, and C, these are all in standard form, and we want to get them into this vertex form right here. Okay? So in order to get vertex form, we need 3 things. We need A, H, and K. Well, guess what? I have A. Yay! So 1/3 of the way there. Now I need H and K. Well, H is found by doing the axis of symmetry. And the axis of symmetry is negative B over 2 times A. So 8 over 4, which is 2. That gives us the h value of the vertex. Now to find the k, you plug it in. Y equals 2 times 2 squared minus 8 times 2 plus 3. Plug it into the standard form vertex, or standard form of your parabola, and let's find out what y equals when x is 2. All right, don't forget to square the 2 first, so you get 4 times 2 is 8, minus 16 plus 3. 8 minus 16 is negative 8, plus 3 is negative 5. Okay, so we're ready. We have the vertex. We have 2 as our a, so let's write the equation. Y equals 2, x minus 2 squared minus 5. And that would be the answer. All right, let's try B now. Same thing. We're going to do exactly the same thing. Start by finding h and k. So x is negative 24 over 2 times negative 3. So I get negative 24 over negative 6, which is positive 4. Now if you need to use your calculator, that's fine. You have your calculator out. Go negative 3 times 4 squared plus 24 times 4 minus 10. These are a little bit bigger numbers. Whoa, you get 38. Now that alarms me a little bit. I would probably go and check my answer to see if it's right. So I would say, okay, negative b is negative 24, 2 times a. Yeah, negative 24 over negative 6 is positive 4. And when I plugged it in, let me look at my calculator. 24 times 4, yeah, it looks right. So I'm hoping it's right. If I make a mistake, you know, make sure you tell me tomorrow. Okay, so now I have my vertex, and I also have the a that I need. It's right there in the original problem. People forget that, and that's the easiest part. Okay, so we have y equals negative 3, x minus 4 squared plus 38. So the last one is y equals x squared plus 8x plus 1. So go ahead and pause the video again. Pause it and try this problem just like the other two. Exactly the same thing. So pause it and try it, and then play and see if you got it right. Okay, hopefully you got it right. Let's see. X is equal to negative b over 2 times a. Now remember, if there's no number in front of x squared, then that's automatically a 1. And you're going to get negative 8 over 2 is negative 4 this time. So let's plug in negative 4. And if you put that in your calculator, make sure that you put parentheses around the negative when you square it. So that would be 16 minus 8 times 4 is 32 plus 1. So that would be negative 16 plus 1 is negative 15. Okay, so we have negative 4, negative 15. There's my vertex, and once again, oh, there's my a. It's just 1 this time. So let's write it. Y equals, you can write 1 or not, it's up to you, x plus 4 squared minus 15. So there we go. Hopefully you got that right. If not, that's okay. You're going to get lots of homework to practice. You're welcome. All right, so let's move on. Now, you guys love to ask me, when are we ever going to need this? Well, here we go. We need it today when we're doing these application problems. So number 2, a model for the performance of a stock is P equals negative 3d squared plus 50d, where d represents the days of trading. So D is how long the stock is on the market in days. I don't know if you guys have ever done stock market stuff before, but the stock that they're talking about is out there for so many days, and the price of the stock is listed as P. It ends up being this model that they gave us, P equals negative 3d squared plus 50d. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that looks like this if you were to graph it. Okay? And what that does is it tells you that these are the days down here. Okay? And then this is the price. The price of the stock is up here. I'll do it in red. Okay? And what we want to do is we want to find the maximum price per share of stock. So it's been on the market for so many days. We want the maximum price of that stock, so because maybe we want to sell it. The maximum happens right there. Do you know what that's called? That green dot? It's the vertex. The vertex is our maximum. We want to find the maximum p-value, the maximum price of the stock. So this is how you do this problem. You're going to start by finding out how many days it's going to be on the market, okay? You can't just find the price right away. You have to find out how many days first. And we're going to use d equals negative b over 2a. It's that same thing. It's that, you know, because this is going to be like that. So we're going to go negative b, so negative 50 over 2 times negative 3. So we're doing negative 50 over negative 6. And what we get on our calculator is 8.3 repeating. Okay, so that's not the answer to their question. They want to know the maximum price. This is the days that it happens at. So now I have to take that and plug it back in. So the price of the stock is going to be negative 3 times 8 1/3 squared plus 50 times 8 1/3. Okay, now I'll tell you a really cool thing to do on your calculator. Take negative 50 and divide it by negative 6. That'll give you the 8 1/3 that we got it. Now, if you're going to plug this back in, this is what you do. On your calculator, you're going to go and do negative 3 times answer squared, okay? Because your calculator has that 8 1/3 as the last answer. You're probably wondering, well, where's answer? Well, it's second and then the minus sign. Okay? So do this with me. Do negative 3 times answer. So hit second negative, and then don't forget to square it. So the squared button. Plus 50 times the answer again, second negative. It's just so you don't have to plug 8 1/3 in. It's just a nice way to do it. And hit enter. And so the price of the stock at maximum price would be $208.33. Okay? And that happens at 8 1/3 days, but they just wanted the maximum price. Okay, last one. All right, there's this bridge here in West Virginia. It's the world's largest steel arch bridge. Now, do you see that parabola there? That's pretty cool, huh? There's a parabola. You can model the arc with the function, and they give it to you. X and Y are both in feet, so how high above the river is the arc? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to find this Y value, okay? But we first need to find what X it's happening at, and then we're going to add it to the 516 down below, okay? Because we want the total height here. We want that height, that Y. So we have to find this first. Well, sorry, we have to find X first, then Y, and then add it. This is quite the problem. Here we go. So let's find X first. Now, we're finding, this is the vertex. We're always finding the vertex in these word problems. So we're going to do negative B over 2 times A. Now, if you're going to put this into your calculator, which you're going to need to, 498, make sure you put parentheses around the entire bottom, like that. Okay? So plug that in your calculator. Do negative 0.847 divided by parentheses 2 times negative 0.000498. Close parentheses. 850.4. Okay, so that's just the x. That's going across this way. And now we need to find out what the y is. And what we do is we're going to take that 850.4, and that's rounded. We're going to plug that in, but we're going to do the same thing that we did the last problem. We're going to do negative 0.000498 times the answer, and you know what? You don't need parentheses, so I don't want to write parentheses there for you, times a and s squared plus 0.847 times a and s. Okay, it's a little shortcut. Negative 0.000498 times my answer. So second negative, don't forget to square it, plus 0.847 times second negative, which is answer. So y is 360 point, we'll go 0.1. All right, now that's not the answer yet though. That 360.1 is this right here. Okay, 360.1. We want the whole thing though. So yep, you guessed it. To get this whole thing here, we're going to take 360.1 plus 516 feet, because that's what this is right here. Okay, and add those up, plus 516, and you get 876.1 feet. Now, that's tough, huh? Really tough. Okay, you made it to the very end, so here is a question for you. Because I want to see if you got to the end of this video. On the next quiz, I want you, and I'm going to tell you to write my favorite number at the top of the quiz, and you'll get an extra bonus point. So on the quiz, you're going to write what my favorite number is. Don't share it with other people, because if they didn't watch the video, that's their own fault. And we'll say that my favorite number is pi minus 1. Can you remember that? I don't know. It's not my favorite number. But let's just pretend like it is. For the quiz sake, the next quiz, favorite number is pi minus 1. All right, have a great day. Try those problems. Open your book. Start them now. They're fresh in your mind. Use your notes to help you with them. And I will go over this on Friday. All right. Sorry I'm not there today. My little guy, Jack, is sick, so I'm at home with him. But I'm going to have you take notes on the handout that the sub gave you. But before you do that, I want you to get out a piece of paper, and I want you to try these problems. And when you're finished, I want you to turn them into the sub so that I know that you tried them, and that it's not going to be a quiz or anything like that. It's just, I just want to check how you're doing in this chapter, okay? So make sure you put your name on it. Put your name. And I want you to try these problems. So number 1, I want you to do y equals 2 times x minus 3 squared minus 4. Okay? And I want you to find the vertex, the axis of symmetry, the maximum or minimum, whichever one it is. Then I want you to find the domain and the range, and I want you to graph it. Okay? So that's number 1. You're going to copy all of that down on a piece of paper, and you're going to try that problem. And then for number 2, you're going to do this. I'm going to tell you to find the equation of a parabola, and given 2 things. Given the vertex is at -2, 3, and a point on the parabola is at, let's say, 5, 7. Okay? It's going to be an interesting A value, but that's okay. So try those 2 problems. Write them down on a separate piece of paper. Don't write it down on your homework. Do it on a blank sheet of paper that you have. Put your name on it. Try those 2 problems, show work, and then turn them into the sub. You want to pause this video now and do those 2 problems, okay? So do that right away.